AEW Dynamite was back on television and Max, streaming yesterday. This was, it was a good show. There were a couple of things that I was looking for from it that I didn't fully get. I want to start, I'm starting with the negative, and I hate to do it, but they have obviously transitioned into the smaller arena portion of their existence currently, with ticket sales being what they are, which is fine. I think you need to do that, create that atmosphere. And last week, it was a unique setup with what they had out in Cincinnati. Like, it was a bit of a unique building. This week, it was just a smaller arena. And the problem is that they shot it like it was still a big arena. And like, there are ways to shoot these things. Like TNA, say what you will about the Impact Zone and all of that, they kind of made it look bigger than it was at times. NXT, they never really perfected that, but there are ways that you can shoot some things where it's like, man, this is a big place. We really got this thing. Even Corcoran Hall is not that big when you walk in. It's on like the 6th floor of a building. It's not that big when you walk in, but it is shot in a way that makes it feel at least a little bit bigger. And there's some history with it too, and all of that. But this one, like, they did all the like big wide circling shots that you would do at like Wembley, and instead they're doing it in an arena that can hold a few more people than my room can here. So it made it look very small. And I think they wanted to show like, hey, this place, like, as many seats as we put in here, there's a butt in all of them. And isn't that awesome? Look at all these packed seats. And they wanted to show that. But to me, it just really drove home how small the building was. And I don't think you want to be doing that right now. So there are ways you can get a little bit creative with your shots. And doing like a big, wide, this is the whole building shot, just made it look very, very small, in my opinion. And so that was my initial like, oh, this doesn't feel like a big time wrestling show right now. But then you see the performers on it, and it does. I really enjoyed the Ospreay Omega segment. I think they addressed everything, made the motivations make sense. You get a good brawl into the crowd, in the backstage, people go through tables, couple big moonsaults and all of that, and it sets up a tag match that I'm very excited about, with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita taking on Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega. I think you have a very, very fun setup there. That they have a like Omega Ospreay, we hate each other thing going on, and then they are doing the enemy of my enemy is my friend, which they have done 100 times in AEW. But this one, all the motivations make sense. The whole story makes sense. So I have really no problem with what they are doing with this one. Then we get the Hurt Syndicate against Private Party for the AEW Tag Team Championships. It's what I said they should have done. I didn't think they'd actually do it, where this was kind of just a beatdown. Private Party had maybe a moment or two, but this was kind of just an ass kicking by the Hurt Syndicate to pick up the tag team championships. Private Party very obviously need a refresh now. They have been the same thing for 5 years, and it hasn't clicked really ever. And so they need a pretty big change, I think, because that is a group that has just kind of stalled, I would say. We get a Megan Bayne vignette. I like that. I think that she can be the real deal. I think that she has an interesting look. She has a great presentation of her character, and she has a fun in-ring style. So I think that there is a real something there with this particular character. Jeff Jarrett comes out of promo saying that he got down in the gutter with MJF. Then Claudio comes out, beats him up, and Jeff Jarrett's like, hey, I want to match with you, and if I beat you, I get a chance at the World Championship. And this is where, again, we run into the problem with this whole Jeff Jarrett thing, where, like, again, that there's Jeff Jarrett, inspirational story, best friends with Owen, going into the Owen, didn't quite get there, but man, he's a veteran and we love him. And we've seen him on TV for forever, and it's all great. And then he says that he was a better version of NJF. And then you quickly remember, oh, right, we actually didn't really like this guy for a really long time, because he was kind of shoved down our throats as the chosen one, and the thousand guitars never drew a dime thing, and he's the number one guy in TNA, when like maybe a few other younger guys could have had that opportunity, and all of that. And so you're all remembering back in this moment that there were a whole lot of opportunities given to this guy that maybe we didn't want him to have, and this one might fall into that category again. It's a fun story to tell until you have to execute it, and like I don't want him to beat Claudio next week for a chance at the championship. I don't know how this ends. in a satisfying way that isn't Jeff Jarrett didn't do it and he has to ride off into the sunset, being happy that he got a roll-up win for the ROH TV title. And that was the championship that he was really talking about all along. Like, I don't know how you really pay this thing off, because I don't want him beating Claudio. I don't want him beating MJF. I don't want him doing any of those things. But I also, like, don't want to see this just fade away. So it's a very weird story that they have kind of booked themselves into. And so I'm at least fascinated to see how they try to get themselves out of it. Swerve against AR Fox. AR Fox is just so much fun to watch, man. It's a really good match. Swerve gets the win, but the big part of it is that Ricochet comes running out with the scissors again, and Prince Nana chases him off with a lead pipe, which at the time I was like, man, if we're going to make Ricochet look tough, can we at least, like, make him look tough? And then we go to the back, and he is attempting to murder Prince Nana, as he has the sword. I keep wanting to say sword. The scissors to the throat of Nana, saying that they're going to fight next week, and Ricochet has a lot to get off of his chest. So, good recovery from last week. It very much seems aggressive, but it is fitting this character, and it is the most interested I have been in a Ricochet feud and character in a very long time. MJF comes out. It's supposed to interrupt a Hangman Page match, and he comes out, and it's kind of a generic promo. He states the obvious with his intentions, that the reason that he was trying to buddy up with Jeff Jarrett is because he thought he was the easiest one that he could beat for a world championship opportunity. I'm happy they didn't go with the Owen stuff again. That's what we talked about last week. Really didn't love that was the direction that they went with that promo a week ago. So happy that they went away from it here. But this one, like I said, MJF is good enough that we don't need that. Well, he also needs to show that, because there was nothing here. There was absolutely nothing here in this promo. It was just to get MJF on TV. And then we get a bit of a stare down with Hangman Page, because no one can just have one story at one time in AEW. But that would be an exciting feud to kind of set up once this MJF Jeff Jarrett thing is done. Hangman then gets a absolute ass-kicking win. Christopher Daniels comes out. Hangman gets the red in his eyes again, goes charging out. Daniels says, look, you win. Doctor say my neck's bad, so I'm never going to wrestle again. And there's obviously some conflict going on with Hangman Page. So I'm interested to see where this goes next. I have liked the Hangman character. I have said before that I think him just being super angry about everything, like being mad enough that you're going to put a needle through both sides of a guy's mouth, when he set your house on fire, no, he just invaded his house, didn't set his house on fire. Wrestling, right? But that one I understand. But then he got just super mad at Jay White because he cost him a match once, and he had that same intensity. It's like, man, we need at least a little bit of a ebb and flow to this. You can't be as mad at a guy for breaking into your house as you are a guy for getting a roll-up victory over you. That's not how humans work. But so I have liked this new aggression. I've wanted a little bit of depth to it, and I think we're going to get that now. And I'm very interested to see where this goes. In the back, Mercedes Moné has apparently won another championship, and they're talking about who she may face in Australia. Harley Cameron comes out and plays a song on a guitar, and it's actually, like, it's entertaining. It's funny. Don't put her in that match right now. Like, Mercedes Moné saying that she's never won a match ever on AEW. I don't want Harley to get one win, and then all of a sudden she's challenging for the TBS championship. I think that's a step down for Mercedes Moné. So I am assuming there is going to be someone who comes in and stands up for Harley Cameron, and then they are going to challenge Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. But yeah, it was a funny song. It was a unique way to go about it, but I hope that this is not setting up any kind of a challenge or anything like that. I think that is skipping a few steps in the build for one Harley Cameron. Then we go to Julia Hart taking on Jayme Hayter. Sorry. Julia Hart taking on Jayme Hayter. I really liked this match. Good intensity from Hayter early on. Overall, a really, really fun match. Hayter does get the win, and so now the story they tell immediately is that they're tied at 1. Both have won at least one match. So that sets up a big third. Like I've said before, Hayter, I think, is a very important character for AEW, as they need a little bit more going in the women's division, and she was as going gets before she got injured, and they just haven't been able to find that magic with her again right now. This was better than the first match was, and it gets it going a little bit. So I could see her being the one to step in and help a Harley Cameron in going after Mercedes Moné and kind of build that up that way. But I do think that there's a little bit more that needs to be added. I do like the promo after from Hayter, adds a little bit more legitimacy to Julia Hart. After a break, we get a House of Black promo. Really does seem like we're sending Malachi Black off into the sun, which might be WWE or nothing. A lot of talk that he might just be retiring. But I think with Brody and with Buddy Matthews and Julia Hart there, I think this is a very, very interesting faction and a group that I think should really get up there in the tag team ranks. And honestly, I think Brody should have a significant singles run as well. But also, like, you see the reaction to him in Japan. Send this guy off for a G1. You know, like, that is some of the stuff I want to see with a AEW New Japan CMLL triangle thing here. Don't just give me a couple one-off shows and have it be like, hey, look at this, great. Send, and don't have it just be, well, Ishii's here in Chicago for a week, so give him a match. Send guys off for 3 months. You know, like, do a mini excursion. Send Brody off for a run in the G1. Send, like, you have so much talent that's barely getting used. And some of it on Ring of Honor, and that's fine. But if you're not going to use Ricky Starks, for example, yeah, go do 5 months in CMLL. Just go have a full run, full story, couple stories out in CMLL. Not going to be using Brody and them for a bit. We want to build up another mean, angry tag team. Yeah, go in the G1. Go have a tour that ends at Dominion or something like that. Like, I feel like there is a lot more that needs to be maximized with this particular relationship, because right now all of them feel kind of lesser than. And I feel like the only way they can build up right now is to all come together and try to build it that way. The problem is they've never really all done it that way, right? Like, there's always had to be one that is above the other, where AEW, okay, yes, you can bring your New Japan talent in, we're going to sign them all, but you can bring your New Japan talent in, and we will allow that. And before, it was Ring of Honor, they're trying to add some legitimacy, so they're bringing in the like Shinsuke and Okada and Tanahashi, and Ishii's their television champion, and they get to send a couple of their guys over for some fun matches in New Japan and at Wrestle Kingdom. And hey, we'll even give you some Bullet Club shirts that you can put on a couple of your guys and just fill your boots that way. But it never felt like they were equal. Right now, it feels like everyone's equal, and it doesn't feel like they know how to handle that type of a relationship. But I do think that there is a way to really maximize that. That would be a lot of fun for wrestling fans. We go to the main event. It is Pac against Cope. Obviously, the focus of this match and this story is going to be on the neck. Moxley cut a really good promo about that earlier in the night, and that was really the focus. Eventually, Copeland gets the win. He uses this TKO thing that, like, I think in theory, anytime there is a guy who is spinning around in the ring, it's like, oh, I'll spin a couple of times, I'll slam and get the crowd going. And you assume that it's going to be a, boom. And there's that. But I think it never looks as good as you think it is going to. And so this one just looked a little like, what is he doing? Oh, it's a cutter. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a win. Like, it always just looks... Honestly, it looks a little bit too much like dancing for it to be taken seriously as a devastating wrestling move. I have thought that when Brian Cage did like the little spin before he did his F5 and those sorts of things, and I thought the same thing here. The crowd wasn't into it at all. It gets him a win. They're trying to get over a new finish, and the way to do that is just to finish people with it, and sometimes you're going to get some dead reactions. I'm sure if they keep doing this in 3 months, it's going to be over like Grover. A pretty fun match. It was a bit more story than action, but it was a good match still, nonetheless. After the match, you get the Death Riders, who have apparently killed several people in the backstage area, and now they come out to the ring to attack Copeland. They do. Out comes James White. Out comes Jay White. He gets hit in the... and they beat them down, and that's how the show goes off the air. Overall, a good episode. Seeing on social media, and maybe it's just the way the algorithm is there right now, but seeing on Twitter that a lot of people are pretty down on this one. I really did enjoy this. I thought this was a very, very fun show, personally. And I think that, again, AEW is kind of building that momentum. The one thing I didn't get this week that I really wanted was, how does Copeland, Edge, Rated R, whoever, how does he tie in with this overall, the Death Riders are trying to steal AEW from AEW and fighting for the soul of it or whatever? We didn't get that this week. We didn't get anything from Cope this week. It turned more into just a regular world title feud or something like that. And if you want to switch the motivation over onto Death Riders, and it's like, we are fighting for what we think AEW should be, and you're in the way of that, so we're going to break your neck again and get you out of the way that way, then you can tell that story, I think, and have it be fine. I think you can do that. But I think you just need to tie this into the overall mission of the Death Riders and that overall story, because there's something there, and I don't want this to go the way of the Young Bucks EVP we're taking over thing, but now Tony Khan is back, and we're kind of just not going to talk about it, and now we're in this weird spot for a little bit, and now the Bucks are just gone. This needs to have a finish, and this needs to have a progression here. And I think we need to get that sooner rather than later. But man, they're good characters, and they're so great at what they do. So it'll be interesting. But again, I think it was a good show that progressed things a little bit. I just needed a little bit more of that messaging to get this one all the way across the finish line.